Welcome to another crochet tutorial with Cozy Rosie UK. Today I'm going to be showing you how to crochet the Möbius Magic headband. Now the reason I call it the Möbius Magic is because it creates a permanent twist in your crochet and you can't see where the rows start. So before we get started making our very own Möbius twist, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and of course the notification bell so that you never miss out on another crochet tutorial or crochet pattern again. The materials that you're going to need to complete your crochet headband is some Aran weight yarn. So I have Sirdar Jewelspun in Glacier, my favourite colour, I think it's 844, which gives you these beautiful colours. You can see it's very, very colourful. I love all of the colours that they have, and they do have a black and white that I'm getting ready to use as well. So any Aran or worsted weight yarn, be a light worsted I imagine. You're going to also need a 5mm crochet hook, a little stitch marker, a darning needle, and of course some scissors to finish your project. So what we're going to be starting with is creating our chain and then doing our first row, and then we will do the twist together. So let me pop that out of the way and we shall get started. So you'll find details of the written crochet pattern in the description box below. It will take you straight through to my blog post where you can find all the sizes to make. They're aged from, I think it's, oh, let me check those ages for you. So it's aged 6 to 12 months, 1 to 3 years, 3 to 10, adult and large adult. So each of those 5 sizes are listed on my blog post. So you can follow along using the written pattern, or of course just go ahead with me. I'm going to be making the 6 to 12 months size. A little Christmas present, don't tell them. So the first thing we're going to do is to create our foundation chain. We're not going to make a foundation chain, don't worry, just a very simple chain. So we start by making our slip knot and popping that onto our crochet hook. So for the size that I'm doing, which is 6 to 12 months, you're going to need to crochet, start with a chain of 62. For age 1 to 3 years, you're going to need to do a chain of 66. 3 to 10 will be a chain of 70. Adult will be 72, and a large adult would be a chain of 78. So to chain, once you've got your slip knot onto your hook, you just yarn over the hook and bring it through, and do that for the number of times that's needed for the size that you're making. So I need to do a chain of 62. Double check by looking at the blog post that I've linked in the description box for you and make that chain. So I've completed my chain of 62 for the age 6 to 12 months. And the first thing we're going to do is to make sure we're going to slip stitch the chain, the first chain that we made to this last one that we made. But we need to double check that the chain is completely flat and not twisted in any way whatsoever. So the way that I do that is I start where my hook is and run my fingers down, making sure that I can still see the V side of the chain the whole way down. This way it doesn't twist at all. And there's the end. So this first stitch here, there's my tail, and I want to insert my hook underneath the loop closest to my non-hook hand. So literally just pop your hook through. I'm going to quickly tighten that loop there. Bring my yarn over the hook and slip stitch through the first chain and straight through the loop on my hook. And that makes our chain not twisted. That's very, very, very important. If you start with a twisted chain, it won't create a Möbius, it would just create a mess. So now that we've made our chain, I've got a chain of 62 and I've just slip stitched to join. And I know that I've slip stitched where my knot, my starting tail yarn is. So the first thing we're going to do for round 1, we are going to work in a round. We start by making a chain 1, and then we're going to, this chain one does not count as a stitch, so we're going to work into where we've already slip stitched. But my recommendation is you work into the back bump of the chain. So obviously normally I would say to work through the V of your chain, but we're going to need these stitches. You'll see why when we get to round 2. So the way to make this super easy is we're going to work, if you can quite see it, into this back bump. Actually, it's where we've already slip stitched. So we're going to work a half double crochet into each chain around. So I'm going to yarn over and insert my hook where I've already slip stitched for our first stitch. I'm going to yarn over, bring a loop up, then yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. So that's a US half double crochet and a UK half treble crochet. From here we're going to work into these back bumps. So you can see there's your normal side of your chain that you work into. We're just going to work into this little bump at the back. So we yarn over and we're just going to insert our hook under that first bump. I'm going to use my nail just to help it get on there. We're going to yarn over as we would normally, 3 loops on our hook, yarn over and pull through all 3. And we're going to repeat that the whole way down. So you can see that these bumps become a little bit more apparent. You can see the other side of your chain there. So you just need to make sure that you're working through each of these bumps at the back of the chain. You can turn your hook and work from the side if you want to as well, whatever's going to feel more comfortable for you. Just making sure that you place 1 half double crochet into each of these chains around. Almost too close to the camera there. I know it feels a bit fiddly working into this back bump, but it's going to make row 2 so much easier. So continue to work 1 half double crochet into each of these chains around. If you choose to work your chain normally, that's fine. You're just going to make the start of row 2 a little bit more difficult, I promise. So I'm going to meet you back once you have worked all the way back round to your first stitch here. So once you've completed your chain, the next thing to do before we join the end of round 1 is just to place it down flat on a table. Find that original tail yarn. So I'm going to put it so that this side is the back half of the chain of row 1, sorry, is over there. And you see you've got your working yarn, which is still attached to your ball. And then you have your tail yarn here. So at the moment it is completely flat. There are no twists in it whatsoever. To create that permanent twist in this pattern, it is very simple. You grab where your tail yarn is and simply twist it up 90 degrees so that your tail is now near your working yarn. And you see where that tail end is and that knot, you slip stitch into there. So to join round 1, we're going to make sure that our first round is completely flat. Turn it 90 degrees so the tail yarn comes up, and we're just going to slip stitch where that tail yarn is to join round 1. So as simple as that. It's not as complicated as it looks, I promise. Going into round 2, we begin with a chain 1, and then where we have chained 1, we're going to work 1 half double crochet. So for round 2, we're going to work a paired half double crochet into each stitch across. So a paired half double crochet is worked across the stitch you've just worked and your next stitch. Now, as you can see, even though our tail yarn is here and we're working into the other side of our chain, because we worked into that 3rd loop of our stitch, we still have stitches to work into. So it just makes our life a little bit easier to identify those stitches. You can, of course, have a bit of a pull of your work and find where the top of these stitches are as well. So for the first paired hard double, we yarn over and insert the hook into that chain we've done, that stitch we've just done that first half double crochet. Yarn over and bring a loop up so we have 3 loops on our hook. And then we're going to find the top of the next stitch. you can see the V's just there. Yarn over, oh, she says, and insert our hook into that next stitch. Sorry, I can't quite see what I'm doing in that light. Just insert that hook into the next stitch. I'm going to work over my tail yarn as well at the same time. So yarn over and bring up another loop, and we should now have 5 loops on our hook. And to complete the paired half double, we simply yarn over and pull through all 5 loops to give us a lovely cluster stitch there. We're going to repeat the paired half doubles the whole way around, but before we go any further, I would recommend that you place a stitch marker, which I had and has now disappeared. Found it. We're going to place that stitch marker into the first stitch that we worked, because round 2 is double the length of round 1. I'm just going to pull my hook out here for a second to show you what I mean. So what's going to happen is we're going to work into each stitch around until we get back to this stitch marker. So if we follow this around, you can see we're just going to work every single stitch around, and when we come back to the stitch marker, it's at the bottom. So we just continue working over all the way around again until we get back to our stitch marker. It will make more sense as we do this row, this second row. So let's continue around, working our paired half double crochets into each stitch around. To bring that light around, bear with me. No better. So we're going to reinsert, so yarn over, insert the hook into that stitch we've just worked into. These will be a little bit tight because obviously you are working into the wrong side of your chain. And then yarn over, insert your hook into the next stitch along. Yarn over, bring your 5th loop up, yarn over and pull through all 5 loops. So the paired half double crochet doesn't decrease your stitch count in any way. It actually maintains that stitch count because we're working into the previous stitch and the next stitch along as well. So that stitch count is just maintained. Oops, I missed that one. There we go. So you can see that I've worked over my tail yarn all the way along there. I'm just going to move that out of the way now. So keep working all the way around and meet me when you reach the stitch marker at the bottom. You'll be at this bit here. Okay, so keep working around and I'll see you in a moment. So I've just reached my last stitch before my stitch marker. Now, as you can see now, it is twisted, and that's fine. That's what we want. It's supposed to be twisted. Don't try and untwist it. You'll be taking a long time to untwist it. So I'm going to work 1/2 of my paired half double on this side, and I'm going straight into, if you see a little chain 1 or anything like that's unworked, just ignore that and just continue to work around. And now we're getting to this is actually the top of row 1 that we're working into now. So we just continue to work all the way around. So now we're working back on the top of that first row that we made. So you can see there's our tail yarn that I worked over at the start of row 2. And we're going to keep going all the way around, and we're going to end up here, believe it or not. So you can see if you're working the right section, because we've got only two, there's a 2 row repeat. So at any one time you will be working a different stitch on top of a different stitch. So there shouldn't be any confusion, but just keep working around all the way until you reach back to your stitch marker, and I will meet you back there. So I've reached all the way back to where my stitch marker is, and I've worked my last paired half double. And then what we're going to do is we're going to slip stitch to join into where our, I keep forgetting what these are called, they're stitch markers. My mind keeps going blank today. So just literally slip stitch into where our stitch marker was, and a little chain 1. So as you can see, in the middle here is row 1, and either side we have row 2. So each row that we do now subsequently, so row 3 is going to work on both sides, row 4, etc., is actually going to give us 2 rows of crochet at the same time. So all we need to do now is we're going to go back to the previous stitch, which is just a plain half double crochet into each stitch around for round 3. And then depending on which size headband you're making, so I'm doing the 6 to 12 months, although I might have to make another adult one, I would do rounds 3, and then I'm going to do round 2 and 3 again. So it's a total of 5 rows, although it would be thicker than that because also working these extra rows. And then for the age 3 to 10 adult and large adult, you would do row 3, so that whole the way around doing the half double crochet, and then repeat round 2, which is the paired half double we've just done, and the half double crochet twice more. So we need to know how to count these rows, don't we? So this is one of my large, this one's ready. I'm just going to show you how to finish this off in a moment. So you can see, if you have a feel, have I got my tail? And I've already trimmed my tail. So this is why it's quite useful to leave your tail yarn wherever it's gone. Oh my god, there it is. So on here you can see you've got your tail yarn, and next to where that is your middle row. So if you want to count your stitches, you just find the middle row. Oh, sorry, you want to count your rows, find the middle one. So that's row 1 and count out. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 6 rows in total. So we've got row 1, row 2, row 3, row 4, row 5, and round 6. So that means that we will finish with a paired half double on the outside. So work your 3rd row. And then if you need to double check the amount of rows you need to be doing, head on over to the description box and you will find the written pattern in there for you as well. And stay with me and I'll be back in a moment to show you how to finish off this project, and we will get these on our heads. So I've just finished round 6, as I was showing you a little while ago on this is my own headband. Now I've got quite a petite head, so I've gone for the teenage one for me. I've actually made it 1 row shorter just so it's not too wide. And what I'm going to do, I'm at the end of round 6, I'm just going to slip stitch to join, as we have done with all the previous rounds. Do a little chain 1 and just going to snip that end off and pull my hook through just to secure that knot. Obviously with your darning needle, of which I cannot find either. I'm having a great day today. I can't find my darning needle either. But as you can see, all you need to do is to weave your tail end in, and it is almost seamless. I think most people would struggle to find your seam on this headband. We only know where it is because we've just finished off here, and you can see the colour changes in mine, but from a distance no one's going to know where that is. You don't need to do anything else once you've finished because your twist is permanently in there. So if you've ever struggled with one of those crochet twist headbands, the twist looks a bit wrong, you cannot go wrong with these Möbius twists because they're just permanently there. And you can adjust it so that it's a big twist or a little twist. It's entirely up to you. I like a smaller twist on my head, and that is as simple as that. I also have a beautiful matching cowl pattern to go with this, which is sized in the same sizes as this headband too. So if you'd like to check those out, they will be linked in the blog post where the written pattern for this is for free on my blog as well. Wow, thank you so much for joining me. I cannot wait to see your finished headband. So head on over to Instagram or on Facebook, or even over into the community group. It'll all be linked below for you. Tag me in a photo at Cozy Rosie UK, and of course don't forget to hit subscribe on this channel so that you get made aware as soon as a new crochet pattern video or crochet tutorial becomes available. And I'll see you again soon.